vehicle still in the cab. I'm going to tell you what I know and tell you what I don't. And then as we get more information, pass that along. 8 minutes now past 1 o'clock. So what I don't know yet is if this vehicle was stolen or if the police were trying to make a traffic stop or some other way serve a warrant on the person who was driving this 18-wheeler. But the 18-wheeler was the subject of the chase, and whoever was behind the wheel in the cab. At some point, something caused the vehicle to wreck out there along the interstate, smashing into the wall, smashing in some of the concrete, and a subsequent fire. There were other vehicles that were also involved in the collision. You see the silver car, hood up, turned perpendicular to the 18-wheeler, somehow perhaps struck by that 18-wheeler. The truck lost its load along the way, and I can't tell for certain if there's a vehicle along the wall there that's on fire or if that's just the materials that were on the back of this big rig. We've had big rig chases in North Texas before, had one recently within the last month to 6 weeks. That did not end as this has ended, and this one is still in the hold your breath moments because whomever's in the cab, police now say that person is not coming out, and you see officers there perched with weapons drawn, Arlington police and Fort Worth police on the scene. We are working to get more information and maybe get someone on the phone who can speak with us. Meantime, there's another nightmare as this drama is playing out. That's traffic. Stay right there because I want to show you all the people who have gotten out of their cars. Did you see all of the folk out of their cars standing there looking? And that's not a good thing because if the person in the truck has a gun and decides to open up fire, stray bullets could take out anyone. What we did see a moment ago as Sky 4 widens out just a bit for us, thank you. You see some police officers, you see the traffic, and now you see all of the people who have gotten out of their vehicles and they're lining the sidewalk there over the interstate at Cooper watching this take place today. Wow, what a Friday afternoon. So much for happy hour today because this is not going to end well. It's going to be a lot of problems for folk in that area who are commuting, but this is yet not over. The tension is still high as the Fort Worth and Arlington police officers are trying to determine if the person in the cab is conscious or unconscious or if they are not coming out by their own volition. And then you have what police would call a barricaded person, and they want to try to get close enough to put eyes inside the cab. We did see an officer scurrying along the grassy part of the median there, perhaps trying to get an angle to better look into the cab. Is the driver unconscious? Has he or she hit their head on the steering wheel or window upon impact? Are they out and hurt, or have they made a decision not to come out? I'm Sean Rabb, and we pardon the interruption into Dr. Oz, but this is breaking news in Arlington, and it is still a tense and uncertain situation. This started as a chase in Fort Worth. Before 1 o'clock is when we picked it up on scanner traffic. It started as a chase in Fort Worth. It has now moved into Arlington. It was in Arlington where the 18-wheeler being chased by police crashed out, at least striking one other vehicle, perhaps more, hitting the center median, causing damage now to parts of the interstate and the fire. Also littering part of the interstate with the load that was on that vehicle. Still not able to tell you if the person in the 18-wheeler is the one responsible for that truck or if this was a stolen vehicle. The fire is continuing to burn, apparently burning itself out. There are no firefighters coming in to try and put it out at this moment. And of course, if the person who is in the truck is not unconscious and is not coming out by his or her choosing, and police fear there could be weapons involved, they're not going to send firefighters in there to try to put out the fire. They're going to let it burn out. We have reporters moving to the mid-cities. I believe Phil Alvarado is headed that way, Alex Boyer headed that way, so we have crews heading to Arlington. But if you're listening to me and you are in Fort Worth and you need to come to Dallas this afternoon, I-20 is the way to go. Again, this is eastbound at Cooper Street, and we are trying to get more information. We've seen no movement, though, from the vehicle. We've seen none. We're being told that perhaps the scenario that has played out today began with officers trying to stop the truck for speeding. Officers attempted to pull the truck over for speeding, and the person behind the wheel downshifted and floored it. And the chase was on through Fort Worth into Arlington, where it has come to this sudden end. So we don't know, again, the driver. We're being told by police speeding. Is it the driver of the vehicle, or was this vehicle stolen? We don't know that yet. Mark Norris is going to bring me some information in just 1 second. He's coming my way. Stand by. We're trying to get Phil Alvarado, who is en route. Alex Boyer is en route. We have several crews moving in that direction, and police have not in any way eased their position. Guns drawn, one knee behind the cement barriers, those big median barriers that you see across the interstate to keep traffic from crossing into oncoming lanes. So we don't know exactly where in Fort Worth this all began. If it started along Interstate 30, moving from west to east, and that's what we believe, that this vehicle was entering Fort Worth or coming through Fort Worth, west to east on Interstate 30, when this all began. If you look closely at the left upper corner of your screen, you can see one police officer underneath the overpass there at Cooper, and perhaps that officer is trying to, as we mentioned before, but he has his weapon drawn, but trying to see into that vehicle. Because we don't know yet, they haven't told us yet, if this person is not coming out by their own will, or if perhaps they are injured in some way and unconscious. Understand, police have to use all caution in making a decision about how they approach that cab. Their disadvantage is that the passenger side of the cab is flush against the wall, so officers cannot approach from an angle where the driver cannot see them. So that is part of the reason why they are waiting. I believe we have Fox 4's Phil Alvarado on the Fox 4 News line now. Phil, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Phil, where are you right now, sir?
Okay, well, we are driving to the scene right now, but I can tell you what we've been told by Fort Worth police. Apparently, there are traffic enforcement units trying to make a stop because they saw this 18-wheeler going down the road at about I-30 and Beach in Fort Worth. It was headed eastbound on I-30. Police attempted to make a traffic stop because they say it was going at a high rate of speed. The truck did not stop. They said that the truck kept going. I guess police gave chase. The truck hit several other cars along the way. Police don't know yet. They're having to backtrack and find out exactly who he hit. But at the location that you're looking at now is where they say that Fort Worth police says that the truck wrecked out, caught fire, and now the driver is refusing to come out.
And Phil, we can see some of the vehicles that perhaps were involved in accidents with this 18-wheeler, but I hear you saying your sources at Fort Worth Police, so there have been several along the way from between I-30 East and Beach in Fort Worth to the point of wreck out, really in the middle of Arlington along I-30 there. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, police said that he hit other cars, so they're trying to determine exactly how many, or if there was more than the ones that ended up in the crash in Arlington. So They don't know exactly how many right now, but that's part of their investigation at this point. Is they're trying to get other units to kind of backtrack on that chase and see if there are any other cars that were involved.
And again, Phil, there are no Arlington firefighters have not responded to this, and that's because, as you tell me, your sources in Fort Worth police say the driver is refusing to come out. Not that he's incapacitated in some way from the crash, but that he's refusing to come out.
I guess that could be a possibility, but police say that right now that they're not able to get that person, whoever's driving, to come out.
Mm-hmm. And this is the worst scenario, again, for police, because they can only approach this truck, Phil, the cab of the truck, they can only approach it from the passenger side or the front. I'm sorry, from the driver's side or the front. The passenger side is flush up against the wall and you know, Phil, as the interstate goes underneath Cooper Street, the center wall there is high and tall, and the truck is right up against it, the passenger side. So police don't have the vantage of coming up on the backside of the person, if you will, who's in the cab. Part of the reason that they are painstakingly slow and careful and deliberate in their movements and actions now.
Yeah, they don't know what's going on inside the cab of that truck, because they know that they attempted to make a stop. The truck was speeding, a high rate of speed, they say, and it didn't stop for them, so they are going to be very cautious at this point, of course.
I count so far that I can see at least 6 officers with guns trained on the cab of that truck. There are 4 or 5 clustered together in the left flank area and in the middle of the freeway from the truck. But there's one officer perched underneath the Cooper Street overpass, about at the second column underneath the overpass. And he has a weapon. He's crouched down, not hiding behind anything, but he has a weapon and he's crouched down. And I believe that he is either trying to communicate verbally, to shout commands across the lanes of the interstate, or trying to put eyes on the person who's in the cab. Now, Phil, where are you coming from? And tell me about the traffic as you're headed into Arlington.
Yeah, well, right now we are on 20 because of the location we're funded, but we can't really tell an effect on the traffic at this point from where the truck is.
Okay, so now Phil Alvarado is dropped down to Interstate 20, and then he's going to try to move east and north through Arlington to get near this incident location. You are looking now. Can we see that camera? Are we seeing that? That is photographer Paul Beam. He has a ground vantage point now of the officers, and he is behind the officers by some great distance. He is on the opposite side of the interstate, simply pushing in on a slow zoom. He's across the westbound side of the interstate. So he is not putting these officers' position in jeopardy. That's the first thing I want to tell you, because if the driver is still in there, he or she has already seen where these officers are. We see 3 or 4 there. There you see 1, 2, 3, 5. There's quite a few, dozen officers or so in total now that we can see east to west along Interstate 30 there, trying to focus on what's happening or not happening in the cab of that rig, and perhaps maybe trying to establish some conversation or at least shout verbal commands to the person inside that cab. It is now 1:22, and we are in the middle of an intense standoff as you now look at a TxDOT camera to give us yet another angle, and you can see a squad cars with doors open. You can see the skid marks along the interstate, the litter from the load that spewed out of the vehicle. You almost can see that cross that's there along the interstate there as well, symbolic of another time, another moment of tragedy. I I don't know how to explain this to you as we look at Sky 4. The traffic is going to be a mess. Not only will you have eastbound traffic from Interstate 30 dumping off into Arlington on side streets and thoroughfares, those will soon be clogged. You will have folk on the westbound side who will find themselves in traffic that's down to, zero on the interstate, and those folk are to 5-10 miles on the interstate, and many people on the service roads. There is a strange phenomena of our nature to know. So many people have gotten out of their vehicles and have lined the side of the street watching, which could always be dangerous if something untoward happens at the end of this and there's some blazing shootout. The fire now is not as it was when we first went on the air some 20 plus minutes ago. It has just about burned itself out now, but it was brilliant, bright orange flames lapping up, thick, black, billowing smoke, and now that has dissipated to a great degree. While the fire has calmed down, the tension has not, as you see officers, male and female officers, holding weapons, some with automatic weapons that hold scopes, as the officer that you're going to see right there. She is trained on that cab. And the best thing in the world now, nerves notwithstanding, would be for the person in the vehicle to come out and bring this thing to a peaceful resolution. Let's recap what we know. This all started around I-30 and Beach Street. It was the Fort Worth Traffic Enforcement Division. And if you've ever driven Interstate 30 through to Fort Worth from Dallas, you know it is not uncommon to see their traffic enforcement officers along I-30 in the middle of the day. It's good, smooth freeway. It's great freeway for high speeds, and they catch a lot of speeders going through there. Can you hand me my phone, please? Thank you. As we continue to watch this unfold. So Interstate 30 at Cooper again shut down. Police are warning against spectators. This is what I've been talking to you about. And now Fort Worth and Arlington police are saying the same things. It's very dangerous for spectators because no one knows how this script will write itself to its very end today. Traffic is going to be backed up for miles and miles of Texas. And whenever this is over, the unwind is going to take a massive amount of time. Right now, police want that area to be safe. The fire continues. It's slowly burning itself out. You can see a motorcycle officer on Cooper, the bridge of the Cooper Street overpass there over the interstate. You see squad cars there. That intersection is being shut down as well. Let's just look at it for a minute. There's a lot we still don't know. We don't know if this truck is stolen. We don't know if the driver had warrants. Maybe some kind of illegal substance. We don't know any of that, but we do know that the person behind the wheel made a conscious decision to run from the police when they tried to light him up. He or she made a decision to run from the police. He ran from the police, and in the running, Fort Worth police say that there have been several cars or some cars that have been hit. We've seen the evidence of some innocent drivers going down the interstate unaware, rammed by this vehicle. We saw one car that clearly had spun around and slammed into the median wall. The hood was up, the doors open, but hopefully the driver and or passengers in that vehicle were not hurt. Shocked, yes. Surprised, yes, but hopefully no serious injuries. We've not seen from our view, and we've been watching a couple of 3 cameras, Sky 4, the TxDOT camera, and Paul Bean's ground angle. shot. As you can see, that's on the right-hand side of your screen. We're watching right now Sky 4 to the left, Paul Beam on the ground, safely behind the officers, not compromising their position on the right of your screen. This person made the decision to run and not stop for whatever reasons in their mind. And some other folk, at least one other car we know was hit. We know there was damage done to parts of the interstate and fire. That fire has burned itself out mostly. There's just a little smoke left. As Sky 4 is showing us the strange emptiness of Interstate 30 eastbound in the middle of the day on a Friday because it's shut down. There you see the fire trucks in waiting, the paramedics in waiting, and additional police as you see where the interstate shut down. But look, here's a couple other cars that probably safe to say were somehow involved. And you see a truck, the black truck that's on rims. You see a gentleman standing there. And you see the SUV, the burgundy SUV. So that's, you see this pickup truck as well. I'm going to count that one. Let's include that one in our count. So at least 4 other cars that we know right now somehow affected, impacted by this 18-wheeler. Steve Eager is telling me that he thinks what was on fire at the back of the 18-wheeler was another car, Steve?
That looks like a car to me.
Wow.
Crushed into the cement wall.
A car crushed into the cement wall on fire. Let's hope not. Let's hope it was something that fell off the truck. But if so, let's hope whoever was in there got out. That's
Just watching your coverage.
Yeah. So there we see, now this is a different ground angle. Guys, I think these are police officers on the opposite side, nearest the fire, but it's hard to tell. I guess not. No, they're there. It's the same side. Same side. Same side. So it looks like that says Pesado Trucking. Pesado Trucking. We're looking to see where that is. Pesado Trucking. Because maybe their truck was stolen. Now these are, of course, information that we're getting and giving will change, but you can see the damage done to the interstate. Do you know how heavy? There's special equipment needed to move those cement barriers in place along the interstates. And there you see it broken like a toothpick. So imagine the force and energy behind the violent impact as that truck hit that and losing its load, skirting along the sidewall there before coming to rest kind of under Cooper Street where it goes over Interstate 30. And again, Steve Eager thought that was a car. I believe Steve Eager may be correct. Look at that. Whoa. Either that is a vehicle that was shoved up into the wall and caught fire. Oh my. That is a vehicle. I'm fairly certain. That's, yes. Oh my. We must hope those people got out. This is going to be more tragic than a car accident or several cars involved in an accident following a chase. It's 1:30, KDFW TV, Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm Sean Rabb. You're in the middle of the, right now, tense and dangerous end to what may be an horrific accident following a chase that began at I-30 and Beach Street in Fort Worth. So the truck has on its side Pesado Trucking, and what we're able to learn about this is based in Chicago, Illinois. Pesado Trucking, moving service companies in Chicago. It opened in 2013. And according to what we're able to find, doesn't have many employees, says 2 employees, family-owned business. Again, we wonder if this vehicle has been stolen. We have some folks now attempting to contact Passato Trucking Company in Chicago to see what they can tell us about their vehicle that's now the subject of a standoff with Dallas police because of the person in the cab. This started again at Interstate 30 and Beach Street in Fort Worth. Traffic enforcement officers attempted to pull this truck over because of a rate of high speed. Driver did not stop. Chase ensued through East Fort Worth into Arlington, apparently hitting several cars, 4, 5, 6 cars along the way. It looks to us like there is a vehicle that was crushed up against the wall along interstate there, the embankment there near Cooper, and caught fire, along with some of what was on that truck, it looks like. Police officers are taking this very seriously. They have automatic weapons, they have rifles with scopes. They are focused in, trying to focus in on that cab. Sheets of copper. Sheets of copper were on the back of that 18-wheeler, that big rig. All right, let's go now back to the Fox 4 Newsline. Matt Zavatsky with MedStar. Hey, Matt, what can you tell us?
Hey, Sean, here's what we can tell you, is that starting about 30 minutes ago, we started receiving multiple calls for car crashes along Interstate 30, starting at about Beach Street, heading eastbound all the way out to the Arlington line. We had crashes at 30 and Beach, 30 in Oakland, and right now we're actually responding to another one at 30 and Cook Lane. All appear to be somewhat related. The good news is that at every one of those crashes, even though they involved multiple vehicles, none of those patients had injuries enough that warranted patients needing to go to the hospital.
Okay, so that's good news from your first report to us, Matt Zavatsky, that accidents that you have responded to or you are in progress responding to along Beach, along Oakland, along Cooks Lane, multiple accidents, multiple 911 calls, but none of those people have to date suffered extensive or serious injuries.
That is correct, and we are responding to one right now at the request of Fort Worth Police Department at 30 and Cooks to evaluate another patient out there. So this is still a very active situation.
Okay. Let me ask you another question. I don't know where you are or what you have heard, Matt. It looks to us like there is a car that has burned, that was crushed up against the embankment wall between the 18-wheeler and the embankment wall right at 30 and Cooper, and has burned. Have you heard anything at all about that?
We have not heard anything about that, and Sean, that is just outside of our service area. So that's probably going to be Arlington. We have had those multiple incidents on our side of the service area, and we're still working those as well. We can provide you with updates as we find out.
Okay, so Matt, help me now and help our viewers. I mostly work in Dallas, but you and I know each other. You stop at the Fort Worth city limit line. You do not work Arlington, is that right?
We do if requested by Arlington for mutual aid, but essentially Arlington Fire Department and American Medical Response to the Arlington side of I-30.
Okay, and you haven't transported anyone yet, Matt, that you're aware of?
We have not. We have evaluated multiple patients. None of them needed to be transported, so that's good news so far.
When you say multiple patients, do you have a number you're able to give us?
So far, what we're getting from our crews is between 8 and 12 patients in total.
8 and 12 patients in total so far, and that's from responding to multiple accidents around Beach and I-30 eastbound, Oakland and I-30 eastbound, and you are in progress responding to Cooks Lane at the current moment. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct, Sean.
Okay, but now, Matt, you're prepared for this type of massive response where you need to send multiple units and have multiple paramedics responding. You, in fact, train for these kinds of multiple casualty incidents along the interstate, don't you, sir?
We absolutely do, and that goes everything from the training for the field crews and the dispatch folks, and also to the field supervisors, and having resources like our ambulance bus, so that if one of these cases, or even if more than one, had multiple patients, we could literally have a bus on scene that could transport up to 17 patients at one time.
Matt, very gracious for your time. Thank you, sir. May talk to you again before the day is over. Matt Zavotsky at MedStar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sean.
Our crews, our reporters and photographers on the street there in Arlington are working very hard. They have located a witness, and we want to go to the sound of that witness and see what they have to say about what they saw or heard. Let's see if we can listen and see now. I'm sorry?
I was eastbound on I-30, just past Fielder when traffic slowed down to about 10 to 20 miles an hour, all three lanes packed. I'm in the center lane eastbound, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a huge cloud of dust on the left-hand shoulder, and within a split second, a semi with a flatbed with some type of piping or equipment, something flat, went by on the left shoulder about at least 70 miles an hour, and I thought to myself, I can't even imagine in bumper-to-bumper traffic why anybody is zooming around that shoulder, on the shoulder, much less a semi, and then it was followed immediately by an Arlington PD car and then two Fort Worth PD SUVs, and then more came, but it looked like there was a high-speed chase going on that involved at least two police cars and this semi, and then within a few seconds up ahead, saw the black smoke start billowing, and then the traffic just about stopped. Police responded real quickly and moved us off the road right in front of a black pickup that looked like it might have been clipped. I was thinking, oh my God, somebody with that semi going that fast, if there was a chain collision of bumper-to-bumper traffic, it would be a huge mess. And as soon as I saw the smoke, I was like, oh, that must be where, the result of the high-speed chase is that somebody had impacted someone else, and a huge chain of events like that. It's horrible to think about and to look at. I think the police response was quick, and they did a really efficient job of handling traffic coming up on a fire and all the lanes blocked and wreckage. They did a fantastic job. Arlington and Fort Worth PD were set up and cones and moving traffic really efficiently. The fire response wasn't even there yet, but they had done a wonderful job, I thought.
All right, very good.
That is the recorded voice interview of witness Chris Mano. Our photographers are creatively thinking about how to get this news to us. And I bring in Steve Eager now. It's 1:40. Hi, Steve. Happy Friday.
Hi, Sean. Chris Mano is a good friend of Fox 4. He's a pilot of American Airlines. He does a lot of good stuff, advises us on airline stories, and now he's on the scene of breaking news.
Yes.
I'm looking at this, Sean. We've talked about it. I did find out from our assignment desk that he talked about Arlington PD being on it so quickly. Chris did. Mm-hmm. Our assignment desk says there was an accident. I don't know, maybe you've already reported that. There was an accident already, some kind of accident out there, and this truck ran into that accident at some point. There's obviously other extenuating accidents as a result of it, but there was an accident out there, and this truck ran right into one of that accident.
Which makes sense because when J.R. Nichols, our assignment desk manager, was first looking at this, he was going, there are two fires.
Right.
So there was one accident, perhaps already a fire, when the truck came up on it and the officers coming up behind it.
And so as you look at that, it's clearly a crushed car up against the walls, very sadly. But maybe that was an accident that happened early and they got out.
Yes.
Maybe.
And maybe because of that accident, the 18-wheeler didn't make it to Dallas.
Right. I'm trying to figure out from the track, so did the trailer go up on the side rail, do you think? Because I'm not sure why it's laying so much rubber.
Yeah,
and then it goes up on the rail.
Well, remember what Chris told us? Came on the left shoulder. So left shoulder, and now he's losing
banged
control.
into the cement.
He hits the barrier here
on the inside.
You can see where it's been moved here, and that's where the skid marks start. He's traveling at a high rate of speed, and maybe he's losing control, or maybe the load is shifting.
Right.
And I think it
mows out that wall.
Yeah, mows out that wall, and comes to a stop.
And pins that one car right against the wall.
Fort Worth Police Department's Mark Bavero is on the phone with us now. Mark, what can you tell us about this chain of events and where we are right now? Let's start with where we are right now with what we see your officers and Arlington officers doing.
Okay, what is the that we're being driven
by what we believe is single occupant, a female, and it did come to stop around the 30 and Cooper area in Arlington. What we have is three that's on fire, the actual truck is on fire. We do have in Arlington police that have safety covered the fact that we don't know what the intentions of the occupant are.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, Mark, we can't.
We're gonna hang up, and I'm gonna have the producers call you back. We do not have a good connection, but we think Steve Eager and I think we heard you say a female driver.
That's from what we understand. A female occupant.
Yeah, I can't. We're gonna have to call you back.
Right.
Female occupant or female driver?
Female occupant. I heard that. My question was female driver. He said, from what we understand, a female occupant.
So let's get him hooked back up as quickly as we can.
So the producers are getting him back on the line, and you guys know how cell phones are, and especially in that area right now. So you understand the distortion on the phone.
And here's the problem with that car that appears to be up against the wall. That would be in an area exposed, and so nobody could go up to that car, right? The way the officers are, guns out, that car is just too close to the action. They couldn't, if there was somebody in there arrested.
Look, the SWAT vehicle is moving up now.
Use that. Okay.
And we've had officers perched, as I talked about, Steve, because the cab is up against the embankment wall. They don't have the advantage of coming up on the blind side.
Right. There's only one way.
So they're going to get in the SWAT vehicle. And there will probably be some who are using the SWAT vehicle for cover as it moves closer to the cab. We've seen this play out before. Here they go.
It's a tough situation. They got to get up high to look into the cab.
So they're driving by.
Take a look on
they're driving by, trying to see what they can see. And they drove by at a pretty good clip of speed there. This is reconnaissance.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
Right.
They're just trying to put eyes in the cab at that moment.
And now they can look in that direction if they want to.
Yes.
Some with binoculars or
Using,
whatever. Take a look.
Okay, I think we've got Officer Mark Rivero back on the phone. Mark, let's try again. You say there's a female driver or female occupant?
Well, what we understand is it was a female driver. A single female occupant is still inside of the cab right now.
Is the vehicle stolen, Mark?
Yeah, we haven't determined that yet. Obviously that's something that we're going to determine once we get a chance to get the situation under control. Our officers are doing that research right now.
Yes. So, Mark, talk about the uncertainty of the moment when, and the danger, the real danger right now, when your officers can't approach that cab from what would be the blind side or the passenger side because of where it's located underneath the Cooper Street embankment there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why our officers and Arlington officers are staging right now until our SWAT team gets set up. We don't know what the intentions of this person is or are. And so we always, as law enforcement, take the attitude of the worst case scenario. And so we're going to do everything we can to keep the public safe. And so we're just assuming that the person is in a mindset that's not right. And we want to make sure that the public is safe. And so we're going to do everything we can to ensure that. So
we see two SWAT, paramilitary style vehicles there. We've watched the SWAT vehicle drive by the truck. I'm sure they're doing recon on the cab, trying to put eyes in there. You would have a negotiator on the scene as well now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Our hostage negotiating unit would be on scene if they're not already there, and then they would begin a process of trying to establish communication with the person inside the truck.
And how do they do that, Mark? Usually, this is Steve Eager, by the way, Mark. Yelling from a distance, how's that first start?
Well, with a situation like this, we would probably use what's called a loud hail, which is a loudspeaker on one of our vehicles, and try to establish communication
very
that way.
Very close right now. Don't want to interrupt, but the SWAT team, the SWAT vehicle's very close.
Yeah, they're like nose to nose with the cab now. Your SWAT officers or Arlington. They are right up on the cab, driver's door.
Right, and I would imagine that they're just trying to get as much intel as they can as to what's going on inside the cab.
They're close enough to throw a phone in if they wanted to do that.
And that was going to be my second comment. If we can't establish communication through loud hailing, then they could put a phone inside of the cab and establish communication telephonically.
So this is a very dramatic image in front of us now as the SWAT unit, Mark, drove right up to the driver's door and window of that cab, not knowing if they were going to be met with gunfire as they drive up or not. I mean, they are so close the vehicles could be kissing.
Right. And I'm not going to speculate on what tactics the SWAT team is using, but I would imagine that establishing communication would be the first thing that we're going to try to do to end this situation safely.
And what they've done also is pulled up far enough that that driver's door cannot come open.
Right.
That man is not going to get on the street and run around, whatever his
Or
man
that
or woman
in this case.
that you've said, Mark, woman is not going to be able to get out. No, they have a contained negotiating scene.
Yes.
I guess.
And so, Mark, let me ask you another question. As we watch these images, can you delineate for us the number of accidents that you know have transpired from I-30 around Beach Street and eastward at this moment?
Okay, and from what we understand, it did actually initiate closer to downtown than Beach Street, and so the area that the officers are having to canvass is a little bit larger than we initially thought. Mm-hmm. So we haven't established exactly how many vehicles were hit, but we do know that it's several.
Wow. So when you say a little closer to downtown, can you just give us a cross street for our mental maps to kind of figure out how large this area is?
Yeah, as we get more information coming in, I believe we've established that Montgomery and 30 would be a more accurate area of where this began.
Wow. Okay.
And you talked about fires. You're right. You knew there were 2 vehicle fires involved in the collision. Just before we lost you and had to reestablish connection, you were talking about a couple of the accidents specifically.
Yeah, as far as vehicle fires in Fort Worth, I'm not aware that we have active fires going on in Fort Worth. Obviously, you can see that there's a fire in Arlington. Mm-hmm. A lot of that looks like it's just debris and not necessarily numerous vehicles on fire right there.
Right. We thought it could be maybe one vehicle, but they could also just be containers from the rear of the rig.
Yeah, as you see, the 18-wheeler did lose the load there in Arlington.
Yes.
And so, we believe that that's possibly what's on fire.
Now, Mark, can you tell me, do you know, would this be your SWAT team or Arlington's SWAT team?
Well, the Fort Worth SWAT team was dispatched to the scene. I can't speak for Arlington, but I do know that our SWAT team was dispatched to that scene.
Okay.
The vehicle says Arlington on the side. I had a bigger monitor over here. The one that's pulled up to the cab is labeled Arlington Police.
Very good.
Right, and let me stress that our police department as well as Arlington PD are working together. This accident scene is actually in Arlington Police Department's jurisdiction, so it wouldn't be a surprise for them to take the lead on a situation.
Yes, and you guys do work seamlessly, though, and you've worked seamlessly on events like this one, maybe not on the interstate, but certainly on these kinds of events, you've worked seamlessly in times past.
No, absolutely. Our SWAT team as well as Arlington's SWAT team are highly capable of handling a like this. And so we would take our direction from Arlington SWAT because it is their, and we would assist any way we can.
Hey, Mark, and your phone, we're having trouble with our phone system or something, but we can get it. We understand what you're saying. But now that it's contained, now that this woman cannot get out of the cab, now that there's a SWAT vehicle right next to it, I assume there's no rush, right? You just let it play out. This suspect is not going anywhere.
No, if we have to stay there all night, we will, just in order to end this situation. Because obviously our primary concern is public safety of our officers and the safety of the person inside the cab.
Right, and as Steve has mentioned, this is it's a check. If you were playing chess, you're one step away from checkmate almost. Because the person in the cab of that rig is not getting out. And now, of course, you don't want them to do anything irrational. You want them to listen to the negotiator. And these are folks with psychology degrees who know how to do this, as well as the training, and get in their mind. Steve, Mark, let me ask you this. Steve and I touched on this, and this may be safe now, but we saw scores of people who had gotten out of their vehicles, lining the roadway, watching. And we see this so frequently. And while that part of this story may have passed the danger there, talk about how dangerous that could be at any time when you have the uncertainty of someone in a vehicle and police with guns out, and you get out of your vehicle to watch.
And you touched on it. Exactly. See police officers guarding themselves behind the Jersey barrier on a freeway with their guns drawn. That's a pretty good sign that they leave the area.
Right. I don't need popcorn for that one.
Right.
Okay, we're looking at witness video now. And this video that we're seeing, and Mark, I don't know if you're watching us from where you are now or not, but you too could see this.
No, I'm not.
It's cell phone video. This person is walking up. The fire is hot at this moment. This is shortly after the fire, the explosion and fire. The truck is along the interstate. This is someone who's actually driving west, so they're slowed down. They're driving westbound by it, shooting video as they go past it. And officers...
I'm sure it's dramatic footage.
Yes. It is quite dramatic. Fires. There's a fire, Steve, what looks like part of what was on the truck.
Yeah, now that I see it, it looked like a car. I don't know. It's so involved, though. I don't know that a car would go up that fast.
You see where the copper is, way up there, those sheets of copper. So he was tilting that thing, or she was tilting it, you have to assume. As we understand, they were on the left side. Chris Mano told us, Mark Bavero, that the vehicle was traveling on the left side of the interstate, officers behind it, and then somehow wound up on the right, going across all lanes of traffic.
And it did, and just looking from the footage, it's a possibility that our truck would travel all the way to where it's resting at.
And especially if you're carrying a load that can shift like sheets of copper in a rig that's open, that weight shift can certainly impact how you're able to hold that cab, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just a matter of physics.
Yes.
And so we're very fortunate that there's not any major injuries involved here, and we hope that we continue to contain this situation where no other injuries occur.
Back now to live coverage on Fox 4 of what was a high-speed, big rig chase. We now know a woman is the occupant and driver of the big rig.
All right, we've been on the phone, though, Steve, with Mark Bavero.
Yeah,
Officer Mark Bavero, thank you so much for your time today.
Much.
Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll talk again.
So I-30 has been closed for...
So we are approaching an hour. We picked this up. It's probably been closed an hour. We picked this up right about now. J.R. Nichols caught it on scanner, and then we picked it up right about this time.
And so that's the Arlington SWAT vehicle, personnel carrier.
Can't tell if the window is down in the rig or
Cannot.
Can't see it now.
And actually, when they first pulled up, it looked like it was not.
Yes.
It looked like it was up. We don't know if the driver may be a little hurt inside after jamming across the roadway and up on the rail. But
yes, that's what we talked about earlier. And it looks like they've. Can you see?
Have they backed up? No, they're still. The window.
Have they dropped curtains on the windows? Can you see that? Can't really tell.
To block it out, you mean?
Yeah, I guess not.
Not the front. No, not the front windows.
You can see.
You can see in.
You can see in.
You can see stuff like looks like
some news unit
or something. Yeah, cluttered news unit.
Yeah.
But what you can't see is the now you get a little angle. You can see the
driver,
the window,
and the window
on the semi.
Yes.
And
can you see?
I can't tell if it's up or down. It looks like it's up to me, but you can't really see. Looking for a reflection type of thing.
I think it's up,
I think
Steve.
it's up, too.
From what I can see, it looks like it's up.
And they have moved past that so that the driver's window on the SWAT unit is not lined up to have any kind of communication, but they can communicate in a number of ways by now.
Right. And as you heard Mark Bavero say, they're in no hurry now, and they can sit for a long time.
Yeah, the concern is getting this thing contained initially. Is the driver going to jump out and stop cars and try to take a car from somebody or whatever? Mm-hmm. That driver, the woman inside, is not doing any of that, and so just get people home safe.
If this is a female driver, as Officer Mark Bavero, Fort Worth Police tells us, the last 3 chases that we've had in North Texas would be marked by female drivers.
I don't know. Passato Trucking Incorporated, Passato Trucking Incorporated is based out of Chicago.
Yes.
Passato Trucking.
We called that company, and that is not,
That's not
the one
this
involved
unit.
in this.
Okay. Based out of El Paso.
So we're being told El Paso, call and see.
There's Passato Transport out of El Paso.
So I'm being told that they've already called the El Paso company and no one's answering.
All right.
So again, we don't know, was their rig stolen or is this an employee? And maybe an employee who had tickets, warrants, and didn't want to stop, but they weren't going to get away. You never get away.
Right. Listed as a carrier and shipper of general freight out of El Paso.
No one ever gets away.
Paul Beam, our ground photographer, is on the move. As you can see, he had disconnected for a short time and is now walking with a live picture, and he's headed somewhere. We'll keep an eye on where he's going. He's on a job. Oh, the police are moving him back. That's why he's had to disconnect a couple
That would
of
be
times.
the
They're
second
moving
time.
him back.
Yes.
Which is understandable.
Okay, so now
Moving.
looks like there's a slight movement with the SWAT vehicle. Let's see. Maybe they're trying to get to a place.
That's a very tight maneuver right there. They're moving in small.
Maybe they're trying to get
distances for
to
some
where they
reason.
can look into the sleeping quarters.
Right. Well, there is a camera on top of that SWAT unit.
Yes.
And that white camera
Yes.
looks to be pointed in the window. So they are
They're
trying to
to get some
They're trying to
recon
get some
to see.
views.
Yeah. It's 2:00 now. KDFW Dallas Fort Worth. Steve Eager and Sean Rabb. The end, this dramatic end now to this chase that started, now we know, around Interstate 30 and Montgomery area near downtown Fort Worth. Traveled east on Interstate 30 at a high rate of speed. Officer Mark Bavero, Fort Worth Police Department, telling us that there are cars and vehicles involved in accidents from Montgomery and I-30, Beach, Oakland, Cooks Lane, through Fort Worth. Matt Zavosky, MedStar, telling us they've already treated 8 to 12 people, but minor injuries.
They said
No
nobody
one
was
transported.
right? Yeah.
That's the goody good news today. Just received a note that the El Pasado Trucking, El Paso, not giving information. They did confirm the truck belonged to them, and then they hung up on our caller.
All right, let's. We got a witness from our ground camera. Let's listen.
Okay.
I was eating lunch and I just heard a crash, and so I went over there and I didn't know what was going on. I just saw a bunch of debris and a truck that got smashed up behind that semi, and I come to keep watching it and come to find out, yeah, it's high-speed chase.
So witness Aaron Rowland said there was a truck smashed up behind the semi, which is what you called. You called it, Steve.
Man, I hope not. It's charged so badly, you
Yeah.
can't tell what that piece of metal is.
Right. I was hoping and speculated that it was a container from the 18-wheeler itself, from the rig. But Aaron Rowland says there was a truck. Let's hope he is wrong, as you say, but that's...
So I have seen. I said I assumed there was a camera, but just that.
The white-
you can see the white mirror of the
Yeah,
truck. That's
yeah.
the mirror, and then there's that
I'm sure it's
port
the camera.
on top that you can come out
Come
of.
up out
but there's
of,
also
yes.
I've seen cameras mounted on those things, and
So-
you can get a pretty good view if there is one mounted on that.
Yeah. Which means maybe they don't see the driver behind the wheel,
Well, they
so now
moved
they're
for some
looking to see
reason
if
to
they're
get
in
there,
the...
right. They moved about 3 feet.
Yeah, get into the
for
sleeping
some
quarters.
reason. Huh? Yeah, that he did seem to indicate that that was a truck. he said smashed
He
up
said
right
truck.
behind it.
He said he heard it. Mark Norris, can you please close these doors for me? We're having a little construction in the building, just so you know the noise. All right, back to what we can tell you. Witness Aaron Rowland said he was eating lunch. He heard the loud crash, looked around, saw the debris, saw the fire, went over there, and then he says he saw this truck, small truck.
And if you kind of following, everybody's probably familiar with the scene, but if you're walking up on it and you see the debris first, and then you come up on the back of the semi and you see this crushed truck, as he described. Because I was trying to think, where is the line of cars behind, and was there a truck involved in all those cars as we go back, all the damaged vehicles? But I actually don't remember seeing a pickup truck involved.
Okay, let's go now. Phil Alvarado is at the epicenter at Cooper and I-30. Phil?
Hi, Sean. We're about I would say maybe a block length east of this accident. So take a look at what we're looking at. Now you're looking at what looks to be a red cab and a truck with a blue cab. We believe that the truck that is actually involved is the one with the white cab immediately behind those two. We're not sure of the involvement of the other two trucks, but as we said earlier, police were telling us that apparently they tried to stop this truck at I-30 and Beach, but as you've been reporting and hearing from other officers, apparently the crashes with other vehicles started around Montgomery, which would be 3, maybe 4 miles west of there. So this truck was already barreling down the highway, apparently hitting other cars, injuring people. By the time that police tried to make a stop, we've been told, as you've been reporting as well, that there is at least one woman in the cab. They don't know if she might be incapacitated or perhaps if she just will not come out. And again, we don't know what kind of communications they've been having with them, but we're told that the speeds on this chase, and we're talking about an 18-wheeler now, the speeds on this chase reached up to 100 miles per hour before the truck crashed where it is now, what you're looking at. And that's all we know at this point. We know that SWAT team members have been sent from Fort Worth as well as from Arlington, and they are trying to position themselves, if you've also seen from Sky 4, trying to make this come to some kind of resolution.
All right, Phil, and just while you were talking, we saw a lot of changes happening on scene. There was another sort of personnel carrier came up. There are people out, although I don't see it on the left-hand side anymore. But the port on the top was lifted, and that offers them some bulletproof protection cover. And he maneuvered something around that looked to me like we were talking about a camera. That might have been a camera. He set something kind of out left and to the front of it. And there's on the right, I guess you see that there's a personnel carrier moving back from the other direction.
Now we're looking at Phil Alvarado's camera facing westward, looking into the cab of the pickup truck that's headed eastward. That's on the right-hand side of your screen.
These are two different trucks, aren't they? Blue, white.
Oh, okay, right. That's Phil Alvarado's camera, I believe, on the right, though. Right. You're right.
I do believe that the personnel carrier we see in this picture is the one that we saw roll up and then has now backed back out.
Yes.
Yeah, they look really close in this picture, but
they're
actually
not.
there's some disparity between them. Wow, that's interesting.
Yes.
Because our camera is so far away, we are compressing. It looks compressed. Yeah, they're on one side of the screen.
We thought they were kind of almost nose to nose there for a minute.
Nose to nose. But they have deployed something up on top. They've closed that top port, but you can see something they set up on top, and I think that's something either to speak to them or have a view in there.
Right. It's either, and I would guess it is a way of communicating. Or, as you say, secondarily, to look in. You ever been in the sleeping quarters to a cab?
I've seen inside.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like you've usually got stairs up to a bunk, elevated
Yes.
bunk, and that top window that you can see on the white
Yes.
truck is the window out from the elevated bunk.
Exactly. All right. Let's go now back to the Fox 4 Newsline. Sergeant Vanessa Harrison, Arlington Police. And Sergeant, what can you tell us at this moment? Please, ma'am.
Right now, we have a semi-trailer that has struck several vehicles coming from Fort Worth and has finally crashed into the vehicle after hitting a barricade and stopped. We have our SWAT team out trying to make contact with the occupants in the semi-trailer. We don't know the injuries, and we don't know how many occupants are in the vehicle.
Sergeant, let me ask you a question about the vehicle the 18-wheeler crashed into. A witness, Aaron Rowland, indicated he thought it was a truck. Do you know if the occupant or occupants in that vehicle were able to get out before it caught fire?
No.
You don't know, or they weren't able to get out?
No, we don't know.
Okay.
So you don't know if it was occupied or if they got out?
Yeah, we don't know if the vehicle was occupied or if they were able to get away. My assumption is if they were in the vehicle, we would have been able to locate them on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
My presumption at this point is that it's a possible fatality.
Okay. And we also heard, Sergeant Harrison, I don't know if you know the logistics and the timing of each wreck, but that this semi kind of, although while causing a number of crashes, also kind of careened into one that had already happened in front of it. Is that a scenario you've heard?
Yes, that is what I've heard. We have several officers, both from Fort Worth and Arlington, on the scene, talking with witnesses and doing a thorough investigation. So hopefully I'll have an update on what actually took place.
And so, Sergeant, we are looking at your SWAT team, seemingly you've pulled up door to door almost, just slightly past the cab. It's clear that whoever is in the 18-wheeler, and we're told that's a woman, is that correct?
Yes, we do see a woman inside of the vehicle. We saw from her, but we have movement from anyone else at the time. Witnesses have said that the driver failed, but right now I haven't been able to confirm that.
Okay, can you repeat what you said, Sergeant?
Let me see, Sergeant Harrison, I think you said witnesses, as it was rolling, said the driver was a male, but you have seen in the cab a female, and you haven't been able to confirm there's anybody else in the cab, correct?
Correct.
Interesting.
Okay. And now, having placed eyes on her, can you tell, is she lucid or does she appear to be unconscious, injured in any way that your people have been able to see?
I haven't physically observed them, and I'm going to allow SWAT to do their job, and I'll get an update from them. Everything is safe.
Let me ask you something, Sergeant Harrison. This is Steve Eager, by the way. Sean Rabb and I are going back and forth. I don't want you to give up. I don't want to give up tactics, and so you tell me if we're overstepping the line. But on the Arlington SWAT vehicle, they raised that porthole on the top and set out some type of device. And if it's given too much information, let's not do it. But is that device generally, if you can tell us, a camera device or a communication device, a speaking device, or how might that get communication going?
You know, Steve, we have all of those devices you named, but I would have to be a part of the operation to determine what they actually use.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It just depends on the situation, whether they have whether they have disability, all of those factors come into play before they deploy it.
And we apologize for the broken conversation. You understand how cell phones can be.
I assume also there's cell phones
everywhere,
pinging all over.
Yes,
right
and
now.
social media.
Right.
Sergeant, can you talk at all about trying to have some sort of traffic flow along sides and thoroughfares?
Yes, that's our big concern right now as well. We're asking people to exit several miles for getting train. We have traffic back on both sides, highways, as well as shoulders. And our primary concern is people safe. So for people who are interested in getting closer to the scene, it's going to cause more testing and possible safety hazards.
Okay. All right, Sergeant.
Thank you, Sergeant Harrison.
Appreciate you, Sergeant Vanessa.
And we apologize, viewers. Again, it's if you've ever tried to upload something or download something and a specific tower is being overwhelmed, it isn't going to work, and that's probably what's happened with all our cell phone contributors right now.
Okay, and we'll recap about the traffic in a moment. Let's go back to Phil Alvarado now on the ground at I-30 and Cooper. Phil?
Hey, Sean and Steve, as you're looking at continued activity from the SWAT teams, as you were just talking with Vanessa Harrison, obviously they're doing everything that they know to do at this point to try and determine if the person in that 18-wheeler is either all right or just not willing to come out, and then trying to determine what kind of danger there might be to officers, herself, the female driver inside, and to other people around. And but as she was talking about, it's kind of eerie, you mentioned before, to see now both sides of I-30 here in this section of Arlington completely empty. You can see some trucks and cars going eastbound on the access road. That's not as heavy as the pictures we were showing you just a few minutes ago, which is on the north side of the freeway. Apparently two-way traffic, it looks like, but it's amazing the number of people who are actually stopping and then making a long walk to try and get any kind of photo that they can, presumably for social media. But again, as Officer Harrison was saying, this is not the time to do that. You need to move on and try and clear, whatever path you can for other drivers as well as emergency vehicles.
Right. When these happen, Phil, of course, first responders and then the second responders would be you and your photographer. We go to the scene, but other folk should not do this. And Friday night, Arlington really is a destination for people from Dallas.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's Six Flags.
Rangers are out of town this weekend. They're in Washington, D.C. That's good.
And maybe they're not a destination for the Rangers right now, but Six Flags and other venues in Arlington and in Fort Worth. Yeah. So Sergeant Vanessa Harrison, Arlington Police, told us that for many miles, it's backed up. So make it I-20 or go way up north and around, but do not try, because this tells me also that Division and Pioneer, which, because Division becomes Jefferson and all that, those are going to be clogged up east-west as people try to get through there.
Yeah, maybe work around 360. I don't know. Yeah, someplace.
I wouldn't even.
Maybe 360 is too close.
Yes, I think it is. Yeah. I think it is.
All right, I think an observation. I don't know if we still have Phil want to chime in, but it is interesting. What makes this probably really dangerous still is that you've got witnesses who say there was a man driving, and police have observed a female inside, but they haven't seen the man.
Can't confirm the man.
So this person is doing what inside?
Right.
If there is a man in there,
is he on the floor? Is he in the sleeping quarters?
Is he doing something to get ready to, counterattack? Yeah, it's
right.
Really tough.
That certainly ratchets up the intensity of this moment. And that was good information to understand, because Fort Worth understood there was a female, they thought, driver/occupant, and then what Arlington
added to it with the witness accounts.
Yes.
And there's going to be a lot of that too, moving around.
And some of it, we'll just watch it and see where they're going.
Right. All right, yeah. See, this is where it looks, this angle, because of our compression on the lens. It looks like it's not that big a deal because here are officers standing outside the unit.
Right.
But,
But when we look from
they're
Sky
under
4,
cover and quite a distance away.
Yeah, it's a distance away.
And we
think that's Paul Beam's camera.
Yes, and I think we now have obviously 2 ground shots.
Yeah.
One with Phil.
The top one is probably Phil.
Top one on the right, and then the lower one, Paul Beam.
Yes. Yes.
And when Phil was talking, I don't know what this meant, but there was when that porthole opened and the guy was running cable down and tightening things up. I don't know if they wanted to. I'm trying to figure out what the method is. You know, if they don't want cables lying loose that somebody could grab or what.
I think yeah.
You know,
some listening device. We don't know.
He did have headphones on, yeah, to listen. Yeah, so official statement from Arlington, there was truck struck a vehicle. Vehicle was fully engulfed between the truck and the wall, and the driver of that vehicle, condition unknown. But remember what Sergeant Vanessa Harrison said: if they would have been out safely, we would have found them somewhere, presumably around the scene, standing back doing something. And we have not located that driver.
So let's just hold our breath on that one.
Exterior, and she said, "We're assuming it was a fatality."
We're assuming presumption is possible fatality. That's the presumption.
All right, Sean, I'm going to go work on the viewer's voice.
All right, Steve.
Good work. I hope we can get this thing settled.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. I'm joined now by the esteemed Clarice Tinsley as we continue our coverage on what has become an incredible afternoon of anxiety in Arlington following this chase that started around I-30 eastbound and Montgomery in Fort Worth. The driver of that 18-wheeler striking a number of vehicles in Fort Worth. Matt Zavosky telling us 8 to 12 people, though none had to be transported, none had severe injuries. Then into Arlington, more multiple accidents along the way. Sergeant Vanessa Harrison telling us that, Clarice, before somehow almost losing the load, actually lost the load of sheets of copper, crashed into this wall. A witness, Aaron Rowland, told us there was a truck that was on fire. Sergeant Vanessa Harrison was not able to tell us if the occupant or occupants of that car or truck were able to get out. Condition unknown, didn't know where they are. She says the presumption right now is fatality, but it's only a presumption. We've not seen any paramedics near the scene. The fire burned itself out, obviously, because the unknowns in the cab of that vehicle. We know that a woman has been identified in there, but witnesses have told Arlington police there was a man driving and a female occupant, but police have only been able to see the woman.
And that is a concern, Sean, because they don't know if there is a man in that white cab, what condition he's in, and what he may be thinking about doing, if indeed he is there. We have seen some movement, Sean, with that SWAT vehicle.
Yes.
The door opening, the turret at the top at one point opening up.
Clarice, let's bring in one of our other crews on the scene. Alex Boyer there he is at Cooper. And are you at Lamar?
We are, Sean. We're here just along the eastbound service road. You can see it's a very active scene right now. Still a lot of police here on scene. And a lot of onlookers as well. In the distance there, you see Fort Worth police officers who have all converged on this area along I-30 in order to get near where all of this action is taking place. It's actually right underneath from where we are, just beyond where this gentleman is standing. Right underneath there, that is where all of the action is taking place. I can tell you that the shoulder here is lined with, dozens and dozens of onlookers who have either gotten stopped in the traffic jam and decided to pull over, or have decided to make their way down here to take a look for themselves. You can see a lot of them on their cell phones documenting what they've seen throughout the course of the past few hours. I can tell you that I spoke to one woman named Sarah Kidd. She tells me that they were driving east eastbound on I-30 coming from Fort Worth to Arlington when all of a sudden, Sarah tells me, she saw several dinged up, banged up cars just kind of pushed along the side of the road. She also saw a lot of a wheel tread along the side of the highway and said at the time she had no idea what was taking place because she was several miles behind of that 18-wheeler. Then all of a sudden came onto that traffic jam and came upon this scene and then realized, like everyone else, what is going on. But again, a live look right now at the scene as we stand here along the eastbound service road shoulder of I-30. In the distance there, a couple of minutes ago, we saw and continue to see SWAT officers showing up here in their vehicles, getting suited up and walking down towards the cab area where, again, reports indicate that there is a woman inside the cab of that 18-wheeler. Still a very fluid situation, Sean, as you all very well know, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation from here.
If you can hear me, Alex, did Sarah Kidd explain where she was eastbound along Interstate 30?
She did, Sean. She tells me that she was along the Beach Street, I believe is what she told me, intersection or area, and then was making her way down here eastbound along I-30 when again she started to see all of those banged up vehicles. We, as we were trying to get to this location, turning around to end up on this side of the highway, on the eastbound side, I can tell you that we did see at least one silver four-door car that you could tell had been hit from or by that semi-tractor trailer as it made its way here to Arlington, where it is now standing still.
And Alex, did she say how many cars she saw that had been damaged by that 18-wheeler? Did she have any estimate of the number?
Clarice, she did not. She said she saw a few cars and actually mentioned that one of the vehicles that she noticed was an SUV that she said the rear of it looked like it had been smashed in, but then saw no other car around it, so assumed it had been involved in some sort of crash or accident, but didn't see any other vehicle there to indicate that there was indeed a crash until, again, she ended up here, ended up in the traffic jam, got out, and saw that semi-tractor trailer kind of embedded here underneath the overpass of Cooper Street.
And Alex, we see what you mean as well by all of the people with their phones up. Social media folk were putting you up live on Facebook as you were giving your report of what you see and hear happening in the area where you are and relaying to us what Sarah Kidd had said to you. That's part of the phenomena of the 21st century. An event like this, while it could be dangerous, and perhaps now the danger to citizens has passed because of where the truck is and where the SWAT. Yes. Yeah. But people were there before the police were in place with their phones
With their phones, and they're taking pictures. They're taking looks at what's happening. But it was, Sean, a very tense situation earlier. Right now we see at least 2 SWAT officers standing outside the SWAT vehicle, which is right next to the cab, that white cab, where witnesses say they saw a man driving, but SWAT says they see a woman inside.
So this
and
video,
we're taking a look now.
I was eating lunch and I just heard a crash, and so I went over there and I didn't know what was going on. I just saw a bunch of debris and a truck that got smashed up behind that semi, and I come to keep watching it and come to find out, yeah, it's high-speed chase.
That was eyewitness Aaron Rowland talking about what he saw just a few minutes ago. Again, we're seeing 2 SWAT officers. They're talking, Sean. They're standing right outside. You see the door open.
They are.
Right next to that cab.
Trying to gauge their level. Clarice, they have the protection clearly of their own vehicle. But at the moment, you know, guns down, they are standing there, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of tension in their appearance right now. They could be listening to whatever's going on inside the vehicle. They have the technology. So they could be listening certainly to what's happening inside now. They really want to know if there is a man in there, as some witnesses have apparently said to Arlington police.
Because their audio is so sensitive, and they can catch breathing, movement. Heat doesn't necessarily have to be conversation or talking, but they can detect a lot with their
You know, they have
devices that they
the
use.
thermal heat seeking equipment, and they can find your body heat. And if you're in there now, your body heat is way up. I promise.
They have the technology.
Yes, ma'am. This is video of a passenger driver going westbound on Interstate 30. Police are responding. The fire is at full strength at this moment, and you can see some citizens are already out filming.
And the injury report at this point.
So what we know and what we don't. Here you see police
look at them,
just
yes,
getting in
gathering.
place.
Right.
That's how fresh it was as this driver was headed westbound on I-30. And some of these other people walking around are people who've been engaged in car wrecks.
Yeah, they're so close.
Yes. But what we don't know is whether someone's in that truck or got out. That's what we don't know. Other than that, Matt Zavatsky at MedStar reported of the number of injuries in Fort Worth, the number of accidents, 8 to 12 they've responded to. There was no one that had significant injury. No one needed to be transported. You know, that's a blessing. Arlington,
Considering the damage? Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Arlington told us the same thing about the number of car accidents along the way, but what we don't know is what happens at the end of this thing. We don't know. Okay. So, Clarice, we've been in coverage now about an hour and a half, and it's at a standoff now. It's at a point where we are going to take a break and return to programming. And then certainly the moment there are developments, we'll be back to bring you the latest. Let's recap. We're going to stay with Change of Heart? Okay. Bear with us. It's always fluid. In our ear, producers are telling us things. The third base coach tells us something, and then the bench coach tells us something else. So,
live breaking news.
Yes. We're going to stay with it a little while longer.
So we saw 2 SWAT officers, Sean, then we saw 4, then we saw 1 officer get into the SWAT vehicle. And their posture is very, very relaxed at this point.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what they're planning to do.
And the police presence, of course, has been massive.
There are 2 SWAT units on scene, at least 2.
Instant.
So remember, you had, as it came through Arlington, there was an Arlington squad, according to Chris Mano, behind the 18-wheeler, 2 Fort Worth SUVs behind that Arlington squad car. They all raced past Chris Mano as he was headed east on Interstate 30. And then he saw the debris and everything, and comes up, obviously, at the end of this, where there's fire and the vehicle that's up into the wall and cars, kind of like you take a handful of jacks and toss them up in the air, strewn along Interstate 30.
And reports that the chase at some points was reaching 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
But do we know the cause of this, the origin? Has that been determined yet?
We don't. We saw briefly police investigating this as a possible stolen vehicle. Saw that briefly, heard that briefly. But we don't know, again, that's not yet been verified. It could be the driver had outstanding warrants and didn't want to stop. Don't know. But common sense says, why would a man or woman employed by the trucking company in good standing on payday Friday make the decision to run from the police? I get my ticket, you know. So it makes you think that clearly the person behind the wheel was not authorized to drive or had some other things going on in their life where they made a decision that is not going to pay off for them.
The good news is, though, despite the extreme speed, despite the fires that we saw, and the cars that were damaged, the people who were in those cars at this point, no reports of injuries for them.
The majority of the people...
That is very good news.
Yes. And I can't imagine, try to put yourself in that moment. You're driving down the interstate 60, 65, 70 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you're hit from behind.
What just happened?
Yeah. And I got to believe some of the people that we see on the interstate in the passengers' cell phone video driving by immediately after the fire are some people who were tagged by the truck along the way. So I believe this is Paul Beam's camera on the right of our screen, photographer Paul Beam, and you see a lot of officers there that we don't see camera left, Sky 4. It's hard to know exactly where they are in proximity to everything else that we're seeing take place. We saw a woman with a big duffel bag there. And that might even be Phil Alvarado's camera, Clarice. That could be a camera looking back west at eastbound Interstate 30 on the right. It's hard to tell right now.
We understand the Fort Worth Police Chief, Joel Fitzgerald, is on the scene. And we see officers and brass.
And there's the chief there.
Right
we see
there,
him. Yeah.
yes.
I would say that's a bit unusual. To see the chief of police at a scene like this, I would say that's a bit unusual. And I don't want to draw any conclusions by that. He may just be there to support his troops today. So we're not drawing any conclusions, but you don't. All right, let's go back, Clarice, to Alex.
We have Alex Boyer. Alex, you have an eyewitness? Alex Boyer.
I do, guys. Candace, if I could just bring you in here a minute. So I'm going to take out my earpiece a second, guys. I'm having a difficulty hearing, but I'm going to introduce you here to Candace Price. Candace, we are live on the air on Fox 4. You tell me that you were, well, tell me what was happening when you saw what happened.
I mean, well, like I said, basically I was just driving down and then we stopped. We saw the truck on fire. We couldn't really tell what happened, thought maybe it was just like a crash or something, and then there were two vehicles on fire. We saw a guy jump over the median. He looked hurt. Another girl jumped over the median. She had a dog. She looked hurt. We don't know what happened to them after. I think the guy got taken by ambulance to the hospital, but other than that, I mean, we just thought it was a crash. We didn't know anything like this. There was a car, I think, underneath the diesel that got disintegrated. But from what we heard, there was nobody in the vehicle. So, I mean, I don't know. That's all we really saw for the most part.
Yeah, and Candace, obviously the information very fluid at this point. A lot of different perspectives out there right now, yours being one of them. But take me back to what you saw in terms of the people that you saw running across the highway. Did they look like they were coming out of some of the cars that may have been hit?
From what we saw, I thought the girl looked like maybe she came from one of the cars. She was limping. She had her dog. She looked like maybe she kind of was a little scared. But I heard somebody ask her if she came out of the car. I heard her say something like to the effect of no, or I don't know. We were on the other side, so I don't know if she was in one of those cars or whatnot, but it did look like they were fleeing because they were telling people to get away. They didn't know if the cars were going to blow up.
Yeah.
So that's all we really could see because they wouldn't let us get too much closer.
Sure.
So.
And Candace, you, one of many people caught up in this and watching it all unfold right now. Did you all just decide to stop because you got caught in the traffic jam, or tell me how you got?
I just wanted to stop to see if everything was okay because, like I said, I saw the lady jump over the median first, so I didn't know what was going on. I wanted to see if she was okay, but I couldn't even get across the street to her. So we were just parked on the other side. So we came back around. We wanted to see what was going on.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know. We've heard many different stories, and I really don't even know the story.
Well, Candace, we appreciate your perspective. Again, Candace, one of several people here, just caught up in the chaos here of what has transpired along I-30 within the past few hours, coming to an end here, as we know, in Arlington. And Clarice and Sean, as you had mentioned earlier, the chief of police, one of many uniforms you see there in the distance on the shoulder of where we are standing along the eastbound access road, just shy of the Cooper Street exit. Right now you're going to see a fire truck that is traveling in the opposite direction here, showing up to where police are now staged. I can tell you within the past few minutes we've seen police take a little bit more of a casual stance here. A lot of the officers that you see in the distance there who had been kind of standing more on guard, I would say, along the barrier, a little more relaxed in the past few minutes, gathering along the chief there, who is joined by many of the rank and file from the Fort Worth Police Department. But as you guys have been watching from the sky and on the ground, still a very active scene unfolding here.
You're saying that it's a bit of a relaxed scene, so it's got to be that they're getting some kind of information that we don't know yet. But again, the reports, Alex, were that witnesses saw a man driving that white cab, but the SWAT team is saying that they're seeing a woman inside, so they've got to be able to determine, is she the only person inside, and if there is a second person, what condition is that person in, and what could the motivation be of what that person may be planning to do.
Yeah, that's right, Clarice. People that we've spoken to on scene here saying the same thing. Some of them reporting that they are hearing or saw possibly a female in the cab of that semi. As you mentioned, other people saying it was a man. As we know from covering breaking news like this, stories like this that happened all the time, witnesses tend to see different things as it is all happening so quickly. So obviously, once SWAT determines that there is no longer a risk, that they can safely get to the cab of that truck and open the doors and look inside, is when we'll obviously know who indeed was behind the wheel of that semi, why they led police on the chase, and a little bit more of their background. But we are still very early in that investigation, as you know.
And we generally don't see the chief of police on a situation like this. Unfortunately, we do see the police when an officer is injured, and we see the chief go to the hospital. No officers have been injured, so that's the excellent news here. But it is unusual to see the chief of police on a scene like this. And as Sean said, Chief Fitzgerald from Fort Worth could be there to give support to the troops, to observe. But that is an unusual situation. Right now we're looking live. This is the SWAT vehicle. You see their SWAT officer standing outside in a somewhat relaxed stance next to the white cab that at some point had been speeding I-30 100 miles an hour. We don't know what originally started the chase, but several cars were hit by this, and a woman, an eyewitness, said that when she drove up, she saw one SUV that had severe damage in the back. She thought it was just rear-ended in an accident, didn't realize that there was an 18-wheeler involved. There could be 18 to 20 cars damaged. We just heard from one eyewitness, Candace Price, who drove up and said that she saw a guy and a girl, could be a young woman, get out of a car. Apparently she thinks the girl may have been in one of the cars that was hit. She had a dog, but when asked if she got out of a car, she said, no, I don't know. Could have been in the car, could have been in shock because the impact would have been very great at the time. But she did see two people that she thought looked like they could have been coming out of one of the cars that was damaged. We're seeing more SWAT officers right now standing on the side of their vehicle. They have been listening, and definitely they have the devices to look into that white cab to see what the occupant or occupants may be doing. They can listen, they can hear, they can detect movement as well. But this is where the situation is right now. There are two SWAT vehicles on the scene. You're looking at one of them in our live shot, and you can see the damage that's been done to the side of I-30. This is at I-30 eastbound on Cooper in Arlington. and we're giving you some looks from our other various cameras. You can see the second SWAT vehicle there as well. And there is a very eerie scene because I-30 in Arlington, Cooper, Fielder just absolutely shut down. People are driving on the service road, and hundreds of people have gathered to take pictures, to see what they can see. The good news is this is a contained situation at this point, so the people who are onlookers are not in any danger, but the police need to make sure that they do keep them contained and keep them back, because they've got very serious work still to do. They've got to determine how many people are in that white cab. There were eyewitness reports that they saw a man driving, but SWAT is indicating that they see a woman in the cab. We don't know her condition, and again, we don't know if there is a second occupant inside. There was a crash that resulted in 2 fires. One person may have had minor injuries. That's what one of the witnesses, Candace Price, said she thought she saw. But for the amount of damage and the fact that that was an 18-wheeler going at such a high rate of speed, hitting as many cars as it did, the good news is at this point is that we do not have lots of people injured, many people injured. It could be just perhaps one injury. We don't know what the condition of that one is, though.
It is possible that the police are going to maybe try to move this along, Clarice, and maybe force entry into the cab of that truck. We'll have to wait and see. I do think it's unusual that the Fort Worth police chief is on the scene. I'm just going to make that on the record. It's unusual for a chief to come to the scene at the end of a crash. Let's go back to what we know, Clarice. This all started around 1, a little before 1. I-30 eastbound at Montgomery. 18-wheeler speeding. Traffic enforcement in Fort Worth tries to pull the driver over. The vehicle will not stop. As you have indicated, speeds up to 100 miles an hour. Cars and trucks and SUVs from 30 and Montgomery in Fort Worth eastward struck by this 18-wheeler trying to elude police. Finally crashing at I-30 East and Cooper into that embankment wall. We have been told by witnesses that a vehicle was set on fire. You see the fire there. We were told that by Aaron Rowland. Said he saw it was a small truck set afire. Candace, the young lady that Alex Boyer interviewed, said they saw a couple of people who looked like they could have been hurt. One was a young lady with a dog, a woman with a dog. So we don't know specifically about those injuries. They thought they were taken by paramedics. And since that time, from a little after 1 until now, it's kind of been this standoff. Police officers getting into position, traffic shut down.
What time did they roll up? Did SWAT roll up next to this cab, Sean?
So the SWAT, between 1:30 and 2 o'clock, closer to 2 o'clock, I think, before that SWAT vehicle moved into position there. May have been even a little past 2. It was a little before 2.
And this is the second SWAT vehicle we're looking at?
Yes. There are,
near the bottom of the screen.
There are 2. One is Arlington, one Fort Worth. And of course, untold number of patrol officers who held in line with guns drawn, and those who carry rifles in their squad cars had those out until SWAT arrived. Meantime, you had traffic caking, if you will, in both directions behind. You had many people getting out of their vehicles for a standing room only view, cell phones up, rolling video, many going Facebook Live, others tweeting, others taking pictures and posting.
Okay, Sean, we were just told by our producer that Fox 4 has made contact with the owner of the truck, and it's unclear whether the person driving that truck was authorized to do so.
So, which is where police indicate investigating is possibly stolen.
Right.
One of our interns had called the trucking company earlier, and they wouldn't give us any comment other than to confirm it was their truck.
All right, so they're confirming that it's their truck and now saying that the person who was driving that truck was not authorized to do so. We're going to be right back after a break. Stay with us for more live coverage.
From KDFW, this is a Fox 4 News Alert.
With Sean Rabb, you're looking at our live continuing coverage. This is the SWAT standoff. This is I-30 in Arlington, eastbound Cooper Street. You can see two SWAT vehicles, one near the bottom of your screen, the other at the top, right next to the white cab of that 18-wheeler. You see SWAT officers standing outside. This was an 18-wheeler, Sean, that was involved in a chase with speeds at some point up to 100 miles an hour, ramming into several cars. Good news is at this point we hear that maybe one or two people may have been injured who were in those cars. No police officers have been injured. This is a massive police presence on I-30, and there is a woman in the cab. There could be another person, could be a man in that cab. Witnesses said they saw a man driving, but SWAT is indicating that they're seeing a woman. And
our assignments manager, J.R. Nichols, has spoken with the owner of that truck, the trucking company, Javier Rodriguez. Javier Rodriguez told J.R. that his driver was in the vehicle, does not know exactly what may have happened in terms of, but it happened at a Valero gas station in Fort Worth. He does not know if his authorized driver is still in the vehicle or if he's gone, if that person has gone off the, quote, off the grid. Javier Rodriguez would not disclose to JR the gender of the authorized driver of his truck. So we don't know about the woman, if she's the authorized driver or a man. We don't know. What we do know is that police were told, as you indicated, that witnesses saw a man. but police were only able to put eyes on a woman. Fort Worth police said it was a woman occupant. Arlington, Sergeant Vanessa Harrison explained to us that witnesses said we did see a man at some point, and that's proven to be obviously some consternation for law enforcement, because where is he? Is he still in the truck? Is he back in the sleeping quarters? Is he hunkering down for a battle with police? Where is he?
They've got listening devices, and there are lots of ways that they can detect movement, heat inside that white cab. And there are hundreds of people, Sean, who have gotten on the service road of I-30 to take pictures, and we've been showing people eyewitness video. At one point, there's a driver who drives past the two fires that are on I-30 eastbound.
Yes, right after the accident.
So close. I mean, the proximity was just very, very close.
We saw a handful of citizens running on the interstate. You assume those were people who had been hit by the 18-wheeler. The police were just getting into position. That's how early it was, as that driver came by and put their cell phone up as they slowly drove westbound, recording the immediate aftermath.
Could have been 18 to 20 cars that the 18-wheeler hit. And you can see that there's the damage from that cargo that was from the 18-wheeler after the impact when it hit the median there at I-30. Again, this is Cooper Street, I-30 eastbound, I-30 in Arlington.
Was carrying a load of copper, sheets of copper. And that, of course, all spilled out along the shoulder there, the grassy part of the shoulder there, as they went into the wall.
We're going to continue to watch this and bring you the latest information as soon as it develops, so make sure that you stay with Fox 4. But we are going to come back on the air as soon as there is a resolution, when there is any movement. Again, this is a SWAT standoff, Cooper I-30 eastbound in Arlington. Stay with Fox 4. We're going to give you the latest information.
This has been a Fox 4 News Alert. Stay connected online at fox4news.com or with the Fox 4 News app.
So what's the plan as far as coming back live, or? Okay. All right. So they think they made contact with the guy or lady? You're awesome. Alrighty. battery. So on my camera cage, on top there's a battery plugged into a charger. And then I may have to, behind your seat, there's a real long audio cable, black cable. So I may have to, yeah, see if you can find that. There's a chance to know what an audio cable is. It's a chance of an intern knowing what an audio cable is. It must be over.
Over?
I don't know, these guys are taking their helmets off. One of the guys was.
What were those military vehicles? Were they unrelated?
Which military
There was
vehicle?
something with a giant radar on the back.
Oh, I don't know.
It could have been just passing through.
Sure. Hello? So behind the front seat, and it may be in between both seats behind them. They're on the floor. There's a black thick cable, should be rolled up. Yeah, it'll be behind. It'll be on where your feet are if you're sitting in the back seat, in between the two seats, the driver and the passenger seat on the floor. Bring both of them, and I may have you throw me the cable up, and then you can tie the battery to one end, and I'll hoist it up. Okay, we'll see how it goes. All right. just came out. They got him. Just kind of hang there. I'll yell at you. Yep. Hey, Aaron. think you can throw the cable up here? Yeah, hold on. Look Middle Eastern to me. Hold on, hold on. I'll go underhand, put it straight up in the air. See how. Ready? Oh, almost. No, I'm gonna have to try it. Actually, I'm probably gonna get down. There's nothing more to do up here. Do your best version. Yeah, best you can.
Yell out some crazy nautical knot and tell her to do it. Just do a figure 8 moment knot.
Do a Russian Navy knot.